What up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Dirt Road. There's Mike over there.
There's Rick.
How you doing, Michael?
I am good, sir.
Always good to see you. Mike, we were a little prophetic in our headlines a week or so ago.
I think we were.
I even said, by the time this video comes out, it's probably a done deal. But my boy, Bobby Kennedy, who I was looking forward to voting for.
Endorsed Trump.
He endorsed Trump, also my boy, who I'm going to vote for, not because Bobby told me to, but because I only got two choices, and one of them's named Kamala Harris. But so Bobby dropped out. He endorsed. You said that surprised you. I saw that coming a mile away because
it surprised me in a big scheme of things. Not so much in the recent, obviously, because I think in the last video we spoke about it. I said I was expecting him to do it, but in the big scope of things, Bobby Kennedy endorsing Trump, that should tell you everything you need to know about the state of politics in America today, right? That should tell you everything you need to know. When you have these two kind of disparate candidates on very different sides of the coin of this whole thing, both coming out and saying, listen, this isn't about right, left, whatever. It's about honest governance and bringing back a realistically honest government and what it should be, restoring the government to belong to the people rather than to these elitist cabal or whatever. You know, that is probably the biggest indictment of our current system and our current, administration you're going to find anywhere.
I agree, my friend. I agree. Yeah. And I did kind of see that coming. You know who should have done that? Honestly, in 2016, Bernie Sanders, because just like RFK, he got screwed over by the Democratic Party.
He got bought though. Bernie Sanders, that got 6 houses, 3 luxury cars.
Bernie Sanders circa 2020 is very different than Bernie Sanders circa 2006.
I met him in 2016.
Did you?
Yeah, I was doing a detail for when I was still in the RPD. I had a detail when I had rallies.
Nice guy, Dick. What is he?
He's actually a really nice guy.
Is he?
Yeah, he stopped to shake everybody's hand.
That's cool.
He was a really nice guy. The Bernie bros, they were, they're far left. They're all kind of socialist, Marxist, communist, whatever. Policy-wise, don't agree with them at all. But you want to talk about some of the nicest, most respectful people that you'll meet? I did a couple of his rallies. One in the Bronx, I think one in Manhattan. And they always came up and thanked you for protecting everybody and for being there. They were very polite. They were very honest. They were very decent people. These were good people. They just had a very different ideology.
Bernie Sanders, movement very similar. There's others
similar to the MAGA movement.
Like similar, yeah. But I was thinking more smaller ones like Ron Paul or Pat Buchanan back in the day.
Ron Paul though is, that movement's still growing now.
No, it is. But I'm saying, they're kind of fringe, right? But they're not anti their own party, but they'll go after their own party.
They purge their ranks without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, and they usually get screwed over by their own party. It was the Republican Party that was calling Buchanan a racist back then. It was the Democratic Party that was going after Bernie Sanders. Listen, one thing I say about Bernie Sanders, again, I'm talking 2016. He's certainly changed since then.
Sure.
But I remember in one of his early debates, this is off topic now, but I guess we could edit it out if you don't want it.
No. Everything stays in.
In 2016, one of his early debates with Hillary Clinton, she went after him because he had a fairly good rating from the NRA.
Yeah.
And his response to her was something that I found very impressive. He said, I got to paraphrase because I don't remember the exact quote. He said, "I'm from Vermont. I represent Vermont. Vermonters own guns." So he was just being completely honest. He said, "These are my constituents."
Yeah.
Now he's completely changed since then, and he went on his, his anti-gun crusade because he had to. But that Bernie Sanders, the Bernie Sanders that
is
spoke
a very
like
different
that,
man than the one now.
Yeah, and I liked him. I didn't vote. I wouldn't have voted for him, but I liked that he stood for something, and he was willing to stir things up, very much like Trump, and so I like those kind of candidates, to be honest with you. And Bobby.
And so we ran not a third party, we ran the Republican primary, but we ran a campaign. We primaried one of our own, right? We primaried a rhino in my district in New York too. And so we had a little experience. You were part of the campaign. You remember how it went.
Sure.
We had multiple lawsuits filed against us. The campaign, his campaign, Gabriel's campaign filed against us. Another candidate running in the primary filed against us. We had people who worked for the Board of Elections filed against us on behalf of the GOP. All kinds of nefarious stuff, right? And we won all our suits because we had an amazing trial attorney for those cases, Shannon Stevens, who is now currently trying to primary Garbarino, but also got sued off the ballot, So the third party, these people coming from outside, these grassroots candidates, third party candidates, the Bobby Kennedys and the Bernie 2016 people, these are the people. They're like the chlorine in the pool, right? They're kind of cleaning things up. They're going to let you know where the establishment stands and where the problems lie. Because when they step into the race and you look at who attacks them, it tells you very, very clearly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Very clearly who the problem people are,
Yes.
who needs to go, and who the problem people are. And now when you see the attacks on Trump, the lawfare, the attacks on Bobby Kennedy, right? They wouldn't even give the man Secret Service detail. Now, given what happened to his uncle and his father, this is the guy you absolutely want to give Secret Service to.
Sure.
Then you look at the Trump security failings for President Trump with Secret Service, and it becomes very obvious that this malfeasance is intentional and not just, a lack of oversight on their part. It's intentional. It's politics being brought into these bureaucratic institutions and inflicted upon other people. The establishment class, whether you're right or left, is very much against regular people because they want to maintain their power and their ability to make money, and the people that empower them by putting them in these offices, by funding their campaigns and things of that nature, want them to stay there. But that's a very small segment.
But these people, like, again, as far back as Pat Buchanan and Bobby Kennedy now, people like that, they bring about a passion in voters that I don't think establishment...
Populist movement, yeah.
That I don't Ron Paul, whoever...
Oh, yeah,
that
great guy.
Establishment doesn't want. They don't want people fired up like that. They want us fired up to, some stupid campaign slogan, some platitude, some hope and change, or, something like that. That's what they really want. But whether it's third party or somebody from within a party, like Bernie Sanders or Ron Paul on the Republican side, that wants to also not just shake up government, but shake up their political party. Because, we have this two-party system in America, which I kind of like, but it doesn't.
It has its shortcomings too, but I agree with you.
Yes, but I mean overall,
it works overall pretty well, but it has its shortcomings, sure.
Yeah, but we've had many elections in the past. Well, I shouldn't say many, but there've been some important elections in the past. Listen, in 1912, the sitting president, the incumbent, came in third.
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt came in second and Woodrow Wilson won.
Yep.
Right? So we have had people who shake things up all the way back from Teddy Roosevelt on. It's a good thing.
I agree.
But the bad thing about the two-party system, and one of the bad things anyway, as much as I do think it's a better system, I'd rather this than what they have in Europe, where you have proportional representation, where,
right.
If 5% of the population votes for this particular small party, they get 5% of the seats in the parliament. I don't particularly care for that. But what happens in America is, because we have a two-party system, the wackos, on either side, have to find a home, right? So they have to find a home in one of those two parties, and it could tend to bring the parties to the extreme. But people like Donald Trump, Bobby Kennedy,
the outsiders,
these are not ideological crazies, right? Like Donald Trump, I don't understand why people call him right wing.
He's not. He's centrist as he could be.
He's a nothing. He doesn't have a philosophy. He is who he is. You know?
He wants to fix things. He wants things to work the way they're supposed to work. And
exactly.
He is the most centrist candidate you'll probably find in modern politics.
I mean, I just don't know if centrist is the word I would use, but it's just more like pragmatic, maybe.
That's a great word for it, but I think centrist just because if you look at his policy, right? If you look at his policy and you rewind before Obama and before things really, really pushed far left, okay? Because it really is far left right now.
The Obama years brought America very far left.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you go back before Obama and you look at Trump's policies as compared to what it was like pre-Obama, they're very centrist policies. They're very much like middle-of-the-road kind of centrist policies.
Some of them were Democrat.
Exactly. So I mean, like, it was kind of like, when I say middle of the road, I mean you kind of got a foot in one and a foot in the other, right?
Remember, it was corporate Republicans that wanted all these illegal immigrants in all the way up until just a few years ago.
Well, yeah, because it was cheap labor for them.
Exactly, and it was a lot of people in the Democratic Party.
And now it's politically unpopular, but I mean, then it was the Democrats fighting against it, right? Obama spoke out against it, so did a bunch of others. Biden spoke out against it, so did Pelosi, the rest of them. Mm-hmm. And now we flip, because now the Republican side, because Trump said build the wall in his first campaign, and it became a Republican illegal immigration thing, corporate, entities, then also what happened? The corporate entities shifted over to the Democrat Party.
Yes, exactly.
And now we're seeing the Democrats as the establishment party, and Republicans are becoming like the working man's party.
Yeah.
So it's this big demographic shift in parties.
Lincoln said, again, I don't remember the exact quote, I'll paraphrase, but Lincoln described it great. He said politics is like two drunk men having a fight and coming up from the mud wearing the other guy's overcoat. So that's what you do in politics. You have the fight, and before you know it, everything is switched around. What's left is right. What's right is left.
It's
a
not
crazy
wrong.
thing.
It's a very succinct description.
Not at all.
Very succinct description. He's a brilliant man now, so it tells you kind of who he was.
Yeah, he was. In fact, I think Trump allowed that Lincoln might have been a better president than him. I think Trump said that.
That's a big one for him to do.
I think he said other than Abe Lincoln. I think he said he's the moon.
It's got to be hard. Listen, I like his policies, I do, but some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth, I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I like the guy. I think he's a great guy, and I think he probably is a very nice guy, and he means well. It amazes me so much that comes out of the guy's mouth. I'm like, whew, delivering that head.
Do you think Bobby Kennedy's going to make? I mean, I don't know. Do endorsements make it? You were in politics. I mean, do you think there's going to make a difference that Bobby Kennedy endorsed Trump?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Why?
Because you have like the swing states, right? Pennsylvania, Arizona, places like that. So you have these swing states where you really, and legitimately they are swing states. They're kind of teetering in the middle there. And somebody like Bobby Kennedy is a very, very big name. He's a very big populist candidate on the left, especially because Bobby had everybody who was like, yeah, no, Biden is not our guy, and the cackling hoe has to go. Those Democrats, which there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them out there. They were getting behind Bobby because they were like, listen, you know what? Maybe he doesn't have a chance. Maybe he does, but at least I know my vote will go to somebody I actually believe in. So now when he rolls over to the Trump side and he's saying, listen, this guy's not the terrible guy he's been portrayed to be. You may not agree with everything he says, but most of what he's saying is something that we would actually say ourselves and we agree with. That's why we're going and we're endorsing him. That sends a very strong message throughout the party. Because, I mean, you remember, 80% of the country is centrist. They're not far right. They're not conservative. They're not super, like, neoliberal. They're not neoconservative. They're very much in the middle, and they're centrist, and they want reasonable policy. So when someone like Bobby Kennedy comes out and says something like that, that's a big splash in the pond. And it might not be seen as big, and the media is definitely not going to portray it as anything good or big because they just don't do that right now. But that's a huge deal. That's a huge deal because even a point or two difference for Trump in those states is going to hand him a win in those critical states, in those swing states.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, time will tell, right? Time will tell. But I would rather have seen Bobby Kennedy. Well, one of two things. First of all, if the Democrats were smart, they would have had a primary.
I agree. I think they should have.
Biden would have dropped out 8-9 months ago, and he would have let them have a primary. And who knows? Maybe Bobby Kennedy would have been the Democratic nominee, and Trump supporters would be talking a lot differently about him now if that were the case, right?
Oh, they'd be disparaging him every friggin' turn.
Of course. But that would have been good. But I do like sometimes a third party coming. At least I think Ross Perot, although I know a lot of people think that he took it from Bush, there's no way to really know. But I think he did the country a great service by running. Because things like the deficit, the national debt, things like that Republicans talked a good game on, but never really did much about. He brought these things to the forefront, and he did it in that folksy way, on Larry King and just.
Ross Perot was an excellent speaker. He was able to take very complex policies and very complex issues and break them down very simply for people to say, listen, here's the problem.
Yeah, and put them into Texas sayings, and things like that. But
I liked Ross Perot.
But I think he did the country service, was my point. And I think if Bobby Kennedy had been allowed to really get going as a third-party candidate, because I do think, again, I don't know conspiracy or not, but it's obvious that the Democratic Party was trying to sue him in every time he turned, right?
And now they won't let him off the ballot because they want to take those votes away from the Trump candidate.
Right, so they were trying to keep him from getting on the Democratic ballot and trying to keep him. Now they don't want him off of the ballot. So, all of that sort of stuff. But I think he could have done a great service to the country if he was on that debate stage like Ross Perot was in 1992.
I think he absolutely should have been on that debate stage. I think absolutely he should have been on there. Listen, I like debate, right? I want to see a lot of debates. That's why I like primaries, because I think a primary is a good way to kind of shake the tree, and you're forcing the other side to have to justify their policy ideas or their talking points, right? Because every campaign has their talking points. They're going to go out and they're going to give you these wonderful flowery speeches about whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When I campaigned, what I tried to do is stick to actual policy. Like, look, here's not, this is all well and good over here. We can talk about this in generalities, but let's talk about how to actually fix these things. Let's talk about how to take this broken system and actually make it work the way it should. I was never a big fan of like getting rid of all government everywhere, everything. That's just to me extreme. But I did think that the government needed to be reduced greatly, and that power needs to be put back as local as possible, because local communities know what's best for their local community. Not every community is the same, and not every community has the same needs. So that power should rest with the actual local community, with the limited power going above it. and that's kind of what I wanted to go back to, was seeing something like that. And that's kind of what I campaigned on. That's why I spoke about things the way we did, right? And a lot of the policy I discussed with Rick during the time, because he's smart as hell. He understands these things in a historical perspective. And he could tell me, hey, look, you know what? This guy in this time tried this, and this is exactly the result he got. So it helped me to understand as a candidate better what I'm up against, or what I think might be a good idea when I find out in reality it just doesn't work. So, but there needs to be more of that, and there's not that, right? But then someone like Bobby Kennedy comes along, or Ross Perot, or any of these others that come along, Buchanan, and that's what they do. They inject chlorine in the pool, and they say, let's clear up this cloudy water and let you see what's really going on here.
Right, so you have two types of it, right? You have one, like a Ross Perot, that would be a quote-unquote third party.
Sure.
Or you have the people who,
internal
from
to the
within.
Party. Right, within the party.
Like a Bernie Sanders or Pat Buchanan, even though I know Bernie Sanders is technically independent, he's a Democrat. But he was running in the Democratic
he
primaries.
caucused with the Democrat, yeah.
And he ran in the Democratic primaries, right?
Yeah, he did.
So, but he was trying to do it from within and really try to reform his own party before he could reform the country. And Pat Buchanan was doing the same thing back in 92. And I think it was 92 he ran. Yeah, right, when Bush was running for re-election.
Yep.
So you have that. And look, there's been many third parties for other things too, especially when we had racial issues. And, Strom Thurmond forming the Dixiecrats, or George Wallace running on a segregationist platform. But I do think that those things are healthy for our political, because they force you to hold the other candidates to account.
Well,
because usually the two-party candidates, they're going to play the same game. Trump excluded. Trump doesn't do that. But for the most part, you have the Democrat and Republican nominees, they're playing the same game. Well,
you look at like Romney versus Obama. Right?
Exactly.
That's a perfect example of what you're talking about right there. Romney versus Obama. Romney is a snake in the grass, right? He's this capitalistic psychopath, right? Before he was in politics, he was part of the corporate raider crowd. They were, basically, forced taking over these companies, bankrupting the company, bankrupting people's pensions, and then walking away to the next one and using it to make a profit. One of the most awful people. When people talk about the negative side of Wall Street, or these corporate raiders, or the negative side of finance or whatever, Romney is exactly who they're talking about. And he's just as much a snake now as he was then, right? So, awful person. And what's he up against? He's up against Obama. And what'd they do? The media portray him, he's the nicest guy in government. He's this really polite, nice guy. Yeah, he's the guy who's going to smile to your face and then screw you every chance he gets for a dollar. Romney, yeah. Obama, Obama did the hopey, changey stuff, right? We're going to bring hope and change and this and that. And what did he bring? Racial divide, riots, and all kinds of bad policy that just undermined every bit of American culture and progress, right? He used basically a sore spot in American history as a pressure point to force the American body politic far left into a place it shouldn't be, that's now creating the kind of mess we have now. A lot of what you see now is based upon the stuff he did. Now, it's not to say that he didn't have successes. He had his successes. But I think overall he was very weak, and he was just very ineffective, and
what do you
he
mean
just
by
made a
weak?
big mess. Well, just his persona, right? This is not a strong, virile man. This isn't somebody that I'm impressed by that's like strong. I've seen Obama in person multiple times. I did details for where he was going to different events or whatever as part of security detail for the NYPD side of it, and you saw him in person, and he doesn't strike you as a strong person. He speaks very well. He's very eloquent, right? He's a great speaker. You can't take it away from him. The man's a great orator. He can spin a narrative well. He can speak very well. He's very charismatic when he speaks. He can kind of draw you into that belief of hope and change. But then when you compare that to the reality of what he does, completely different animals.
Well, I don't. I think Obama did what he set out to do. Obama changed. To me, the Reagan Revolution ended with Obama. Obama brought the country to the left. I think we're still living in Obama's America right now.
Well, yeah, because Biden was nothing but an extension of.
Yeah, well, it's not even just the person; it's the direction that the country goes in. One man can only do so much, but I think that when you look at turning points in American history, or
without a doubt, without a doubt,
the Reagan cycle really kind of lasted from the late 70s up until around the mid George W. Bush years, and now I think we're living in a different cycle. I think we're living in Obama's America. So he was effective, just not effective in the way that maybe
he was effective in destruction. He was effective at destroying a lot of things that were norms.
Or you could say he created a left-wing America.
He did, and he created a lot of disparity and a lot of I hate the identity politics. I hate all the nonsense that goes along with it. I hate all the blaming and the guilt shaming and all the other nonsense and the victim, mentality of all. Don't like it all. But again, that's an effective way to control populace. And he's not stupid. He's not at all stupid. But you look at the way Obama, right? When he went and met with Putin, right? What did you see? Putin in one of the interviews with him, I forget which interview, I forget what it was, one of the different like G8 summit or something like that. Putin comes up to him and they're talking, and Putin just reaches over and starts adjusting his tie. It seems like a nothing burger, right? It seems like, it's no big deal. One man's fixing a man's tie. But it's not. You're talking about two world leaders know that they're being filmed, and this man feels comfortable enough to reach over and touch you and adjust you physically. He's owning you. That's an alpha move. That's somebody saying that now, look at me. I'm stronger than you. I can do whatever the hell I want to you.
Well, Putin's an alpha, that's for sure.
Without a doubt. But you got to remember, like, should Obama throw him in a headlock and beat him up? No, absolutely not. But there should have been a much stronger response to that. Or quite honestly, Putin should know that that's not allowed. Now, could you imagine Putin trying to do that to Donald Trump? It would never happen.
No, probably
it would never happen.
But
that's kind of the strength you need in this role. In the world we live in, that's the kind of strength you need. Because look at the world under Biden and how disastrous it's become. And Trump's not wrong when he says this wouldn't have happened under me, because honestly it wouldn't have, because he'll do what he says he's gonna do. He'll bomb the shit out of a country if he says he's gonna bomb the shit out of it. Now, he didn't bomb anywhere near as much as Obama before him did. Not even remotely.
Not at all.
But he did it effectively. The ones he did do were effective. They sent a very clear message to the very right people, and it stopped shit dead in its tracks. That's the kind of leadership I want to see back again. Now, if you put Trump's name on it, or if it's Bobby Kennedy's name on it that's doing that kind of thing, and the other third-party candidate, if that's the person who can affect that kind of change and bring back that stability, then I'm all for that person.
Yeah, I just disagree with you on Trump's strength. Trump's strength to me wasn't the bombing. Trump's strength to me was his willingness to talk. Was his willingness to negotiate.
That's one piece of it.
He was a deal maker. I mean, I don't remember him bombing anybody. He took out. He had the military take out ISIS.
Early in his campaign,
took out guys like Soleimani. The individuals.
That's what I'm talking about. Those precise strikes that made sent the right message.
Trump didn't. He talked blustery sometimes, but he was somebody who was willing to negotiate. And Trump loved to make deals.
And he did, and he made great deals. But again, his strength was never underestimated by anybody. They understood that he meant what he said. Because those limited strikes he did do, Soleimani and others, sent a very clear message like, look, I don't want to do these things. I'd rather not do any of this, to be honest with you. I'd rather sit down at a table and negotiate this with you.
But Obama was whacking people with drones left and right all the time also.
Yeah, but he wasn't making deals. He was just whacking people.
Yeah. Well, he made deals, just deals that we didn't particularly like. I mean, he made the Iran deal.
Billions of dollars to Iran in the middle of the night, allowing them to get nuclear weapons and basically undermining Israel in every way possible.
Well, they're deals. I didn't say they were good deals. They're deals,
Awful.
But the third party, going back to the third-party candidates, I don't know that Bobby Kennedy's endorsement to Trump is going to make that much of a difference, only because, I don't know, just for me personally, I don't vote for anybody because somebody else suggests that I
wouldn't either. I want to know the candidate that I know that I like.
Yeah,
I'm going to vote
so I don't know. Maybe other people do.
But a lot of people do. A lot of people do. A lot of people follow to that point where they're like, okay, I'll go and do that, Yeah,
maybe. I mean, it would be interesting. And again, they're not that far apart on their goals, right? The goals these are disruptors. That's what they want to do. That's what Bobby wants to do.
Yeah, no, they want to break down the administrative state. You can say deep state, but administrative state is really probably the more accurate term for what we're dealing with. People say it's deep state, whatever you want to call it. Administrative state, the bureaucrat state. That's really what it was more honestly, truthfully should be called. So they want to break that down. They want to break down that veil of secrecy and that whole cabal they've got
So the
built.
question is it possible? Because
Absolutely.
we do hear that. I mean, listen, Obama ran on that too. You go back and you listen to Obama's campaign.
Yeah, his original campaign speeches were all about breaking down that system and making it work.
Exactly.
But Obama was, I think Obama was better at keeping his finger on the pulse than a lot of other candidates are, and kind of giving them what they wanted to hear. Whereas I think Trump and Bobby Kennedy especially have a much more personal vested interest in it than anybody else did.
See, I just think Obama got captured. I think one of the things that, like, foreign policy wise, when Obama was running, and this is what's ironic, how again back to Lincoln's quote about politics, you getting into that fight, coming up with the other guy's overcoat. I remember right-wing media constantly attacking Obama. He's going to speak with dictators with no preconditions. He's going to negotiate with whichever Kim was in charge at the time.
Ill or whatever.
I think it was ill. Whichever one his father.
Was ill at that time, right? And then
so
came in after.
Our side was ripping him for that. Now we praise Trump for that. But I think what happened to Obama is, I do think Obama was. Again, this is kind of ironic, but when he was running, he was very Trumpy. Anti-establishment, didn't want the wars. Did not say very good things about our intelligence community or our military, but once he got in, he got captured by them.
Because they're both populist candidates.
Yeah.
Right? Except the difference is that Obama got in and got captured.
He did.
Trump got in and was like, and did what the fuck he wanted to do.
Because look, remember, the Pentagon and the intelligence agencies briefed the president, not vice versa, right?
Right, so they basically give him all the information they want him to have.
What they want him to have. So I know if I'm president of the United States and somebody who supposedly is in a position where they know all the secrets of the world, right, comes up to me and says, Mr. President, Americans will die if you don't do X, Y, and Z.
And that's what they did.
It's got to be damn near impossible to say no.
Well, yeah, because it's hard, because you got to have like outside vetted information. But I think that he learned that in his first campaign. I think that's why Kash Patel will be so important in his cabinet the second time around. Because Kash Patel is an extremely sharp guy. Not many people talk about him. Very, very sharp guy. And he worked in that environment, in those communities. He knows all the silos for the intelligence community. He knows where the bodies are buried. Same with Mike Flynn. That's why they took Mike Flynn out so quickly, right? They wanted Mike Flynn gone because Flynn worked at the NSA head. He knew all the dirty secrets, like all the dirty secrets. And Mike Flynn was the most dangerous person in that administration when Trump took office. And that's why he was target number one. That's why they indicted him so quickly. That's why they got rid of him so quickly. Because he was the one person in Trump's original cabinet that could have really done serious damage to that administrative state and taken him out.
Yeah, and I think Bobby Kennedy can if Trump appoints him somewhere in there too, because there was obviously a let me try to get this out. Quid pro quo.
Hallelujah.
There had to have been some kind of quid pro quo, right? Maybe a cabinet position, but he did state that he's going to put him into some sort of position with the JFK files and all of that.
He has to.
This was a broken promise or lie, however you want to put it, by Trump the first time around.
Yeah, because he said he was going to release it, and then he saw it, and he said he wouldn't.
Yeah, and remember what he said? He said, if you saw what I saw, you wouldn't release it either.
Yep.
That is the biggest bullshit answer ever, because, sorry, Donald, I'm a big boy. I can handle it. And we have the right to know these things. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear about national. Everything is fucking national. Ever since
I'm with Tucker on the Kennedy thing. I think that having come from a military background, having kind of worked in those environments where you dealt with like that kind of secret information and whatever in different capacities, I'm 100% with Tucker on this, and I think the CIA was directly involved in the assassination.
Whether I mean, listen, we can't know for sure because we're not allowed to, but obviously somebody was involved with something. I don't care. We have the right to know.
I agree.
We have the
I think it
right
should be
to know.
I think that information belongs to the American people.
Yes, exactly.
And it should be put out to the American people.
Yes, exactly. And again, going back to what I don't remember if it was this video or last one, the whole clear and present danger sort of a thing. I don't want to hear national security on every fucking thing that they want to keep secret from us. Everything can't be a direct threat to our lives or our nation's well-being.
It's not. It's a direct threat to their ability to make money or to hide what their nefarious actions are.
They want to hide. But it goes back to what I said before. Until we, the people, demand these, we have to demand these things. We have the right to know. We have the right to know. Unless like I said, I don't want them to out, a source that could be beheaded by ISIS if they let it out. I'm not talking about that.
But Obama's campaign and Hillary's campaign in 2016 did exactly that. They exposed so many people during their time playing their little games that they played. So many people got exposed that every single human asset we had in China was executed all at the same time.
But that's not what I want. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying
I know, I'm
is
just saying that the other side does that, and people do that.
Other than that would be the clear and present danger. Or
don't jeopardize people's lives.
No, don't jeopardize people's lives, but they could take anything and stretch it to where they say, oh, well, it might jeopardize someone's life. Nobody's life is going to be jeopardized if the JFK files are 100% released right now. Because, first of all, if not all, almost all of those people are already dead. And second of all, what is in there that would jeopardize anybody's life? I mean, we have I don't know, maybe it's the academic in me. I want to know. I want to know things. And I have the right to know as an American. And then, if I'm going to be hearing all this shit about how much better we are than Russia, well, then don't have as many state secrets as Russia.
I agree 100%. Listen, I think state secrets are anti-republic, anti-democratic, anti-people, anti-human.
Yeah.
Right? I think state secrets lead to state, crimes, honestly.
But just the fact that we're arguing 64 years later, or 61 years later, rather, that we have the right to know about Kennedy. Imagine how long it's going to be before we know the real story behind the Trump assassination attempt. It's just...
I think that's going to come out sooner rather than later, honestly.
Why?
I do. Just the nature of the beast now. I think the world is changing. I think you're right about that. That whole Reagan era kind of ended. But I think that we've now seen the far left era is kind of coming to an end now, this populist movement of the MAGA, whatever. But it's becoming like a populist movement, not even about Trump anymore so much as it's about, no censorship, freedom of speech. And that's why you're seeing people like Elon Musk and others who are more centrist or even more left-leaning that are coming over to the side and saying, wait a minute, this should be this way. So I think that the whole thing with Crooks and the Trump attempted assassination, I think that you're going to see more of that relevant information come out much sooner than you did during the Kennedy assassination. But I honestly, if I'm being blunt, I think Bobby Kennedy being part of a Trump administration is going to be a big part to play in that.
I do too, yeah. And that's obviously what he promised him, was to put him in charge. But again, I just don't understand why this even needs to be a question anymore. But I guess we've gone far off the topic of third-party candidates here. Do you think we would be better off without the two-party system?
I don't know. I think it'd be very messy if it was anything other than a two-party system. I do.
Because we'd never have a president that has a majority of the
you'd have
vote.
like somebody who has a small segment of the population that just happened to beat the rest of the segments. I think you'd have a much less of an effective government. I think the two-party system works more or less, but I think it's up to us, me, you, everybody else out there, to keep our parties in check, and that starts at the very local level. And if you're not keeping your local party in check, and on top of them, where you're not allowing corruption that takes hold there, you're going to see that corruption filter all the way to the top, and that's the problem. Yeah. Or filter down, vice versa, it doesn't matter.
And you definitely need the upstarts in the party, like a Ron Paul and then a Rand Paul, or a Bernie Sanders or whoever. Somebody's got to hold that party to account.
I'll be completely blunt with you. Me and Lauren ended our careers, right, for that campaign run. We stopped, we walked away from our careers. We invested all our own money in the campaign, quite a bit of it. Then bankrupted ourselves doing it, and we ran the campaign. And it was the right thing to do. As painful as it was at times to do it, and as ugly as it got, it was still the right thing to do. Because sometimes you do have to be a check on power. You have to go out and say, wait a minute, this is not right. And courage is contagious, right? So if you're willing to step up and call out some people and do things that maybe people wouldn't normally do to get things done or get things moving in the right direction, it inspires others. And it brings others to that movement, and that's kind of what Trump did with his campaign, obviously on a much, much larger scale. But that's what we tried to replicate with the whole primary thing, was just to kind of try and get people talking and moving and saying, wait a minute, you're supposed to represent us, but you're not representing us.
And it's tough to do, right? I mean, you're up against a very powerful
hard.
force.
You get sued, you get blacklisted, you get lied to. They tried to threaten me, which was hysterical. I was like, maybe you want to Google me before you try that game with me, but they tried. I gave them credit for that, and then told them to put a tag on whoever they sent so I could send the body parts back, but it's all right, it's all good. They're going to try and, they're going to come after you every way possible. They're going to come after you in every way possible. I've heard from other candidates who've tried to primary candidates or have all kinds of things that have been done to them. Everything from having their businesses blacklisted, their permits messed with in the town and counties, their jobs threatened in the town and county.
But parties can be, listen, one thing Trump did, and if he loses this election, it's over. But if he wins this election, the Republican Party has changed for a generation or two. Because the Trump wing of the Republican Party becomes the Republican Party.
I agree.
If he loses this election, then that gives the establishment Republicans, the corporate Republicans, the quote-unquote national security Republicans, it gives them the party back. And they're not going to give it up for a long, long time. So parties can be changed. It's not just about moving right or left, because again, I don't consider Trump right wing.
No, I think he's a centrist.
Any stretch of the imagination.
No, I think he's very much a centrist.
In fact, to me, I don't know this for sure, but I think his tax cut, the whole tax cut thing, I think that was just his gift to Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell and saying, okay, now you got this, shut the fuck up, now I'm doing my stuff. I think it was really more of that, because I don't think Trump really cares one way or the other about that sort of stuff. Trump has the stuff that he wants to do, and he's going to do it. And I'm not saying he bought them off. I don't think he did. I think, obviously, excuse me, that tax cut was one of the reasons we had a very good economy under Trump. So it was a good thing. So I'm not disparaging it. But I do think that was his way of saying, okay, you got this. I'm giving you this.
It was a more traditional Republican kind of policy.
100%, sure. Yeah. But it really has become the party of Trump. And this is what, again, with the media, we were talking about that in the last video. The media always says that, Trump took over the Republican Party. But no. Republican voters have always looked for a Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Always. Listen, the average Republican voter, do you really think the average Republican voter, people like you, people like me, give a rat's ass if the top income bracket is at 37% or 35.5%? Are we losing sleep over that?
Absolutely not.
No, we're not, right?
We're worried about what our bracket is and what we need to do to take care
And
of
we're
our
worried
business,
about the things in
families.
our daily lives, right?
Of
And
course.
the cost of things and stuff like that. So I think what Trump did is he really showed where the Republican voters are. That's why they didn't take him seriously in 2016, right? It was
Yeah.
going to be Jeb Bush. But then they got the shock of a lifetime. Republican base voters, the people who vote in the Republican primaries, Republican base voters said, nah, we're done with the Bushes. We're done with that kind of Republican. We want this guy.
Yep.
You know, we want this guy who, in a speech in a campaign rally, asked questions like, why do we have to have that little itty bitty piece, thing of water in our toilet bowls now? I remember this is one of the things that I really loved about Trump. At one of his first rallies, he says, why do we have to flush the toilet 10 times? Why can't we just have the water in there that we used to have in there? The environmentalists say we have to have little bits of water. Stuff like that no politician would ever talk about, Trump was
But
talking
that
about.
resonates with regular people.
It resonated with me
Exactly.
because I've been saying that for a long time. I want those toilet bowls back where you go bahoosh when you flush it, Trump spoke to the people, the real Republican voters, who tolerated the George W. Bushes because they were better than the alternative, right?
Yeah.
So Trump didn't take over the party. Trump spoke to the people who are the party,
Yeah.
and these are the people who will kick people like Mitch McConnell out.
Yeah.
I think. So, I don't know. I think Trump did a great thing changing the party. I think he's going to continue to do it. The unfortunate thing is, Mike, if you lose this election, that Trump revolution within the Republican Party is over, and we're back to Mitch.
Yeah. I don't think he'll lose. I don't. I think he wins. Honestly, in the end, I don't see.
I think
I don't
he's in
see him
trouble.
losing. I don't think so at all. Not even remotely. A, the polls are just like they were in 2016 with the Hillary hype nonsense. B, Kamala is a far worse candidate than Hillary or even Joe Biden.
Oh, I totally disagree. She's running
Far
a
worse.
much better campaign than Hillary Clinton
Far
did.
worse.
Hillary
Far
Clinton
worse.
ran a horrible campaign.
Well, Hillary Clinton had a horrible campaign, but Kamala had her little honeymoon period because the media was being very kind to her, and they're still being kind to her in every way possible. But the simple fact that she can't speak extemporaneously, she can't even speak to policy,
That's not
changes her opinion
that's
on
not
every single thing.
That's
everything.
not a campaign. That's
But that is
the
her
candidate.
campaign because they're
the
dragging it
campaign
out.
is the organization. The campaign is the
What I'm talking about is her perception of her.
You're talking about her.
She is her campaign. The campaign is built around her. So she's the core, and the framework goes around her.
Yeah.
But the core is rotten, and the rest of it's rotten because it's around her. She has very smart campaign people.
Yes.
She has a very smart campaign staff.
And they're
doing the
running a very
absolute-
smart campaign.
They're doing the best they can with what they're given, but when
They
they're
are
given a pile
running a
of
very
poop,
disciplined. Now again,
it's a big pile of poop, and they're doing the best they can. But
got to
it's still a big
separate
pile
the
of poop.
candidate from the campaign. The campaign is the
No, her
organization.
campaign's amazing.
They're doing
great
a
people.
very good job. They're keeping
But-
her from being put in a position where she can
has to
say one
actually
of her
say anything?
stupid things that's going to get messed up.
But
They
she's-
are
she's-
very disciplined. They are doing a very good job with her.
No, I think that I think the CNN interview hurt her badly. I think that everything going forward is going to get worse for her because I think her honeymoon period is over.
Yeah, maybe
And even
it
with
will.
even with a doctored CNN campaign, I don't see her really gaining any ground. In
Maybe.
all
But
reality,
you're
she's
talking
losing
about
ground.
tomorrow. I'm talking about up to this point. Her
She
campaign
had
has
a
run
very short window. I mean, it's easy to be good for a little while.
Mike, you tell me in what way that campaig's been undisciplined.
I'm
Name
not
me
talking
one
about
way.
discipline. You're talking about one aspect of one campaign. What I'm talking about is
that-
the overall
right,
campaign.
That's the one aspect I'm asking you right now in this particular question.
Undisciplined
I could-
is her.
No, the
I
campaign.
said, okay.
They're keeping her out of it so
But
that
what
she
you're doing
can't
is
be
you're trying to
undisciplined.
win the argument on one little point over here when the argument's already.
No, I'll ask you 5 more follow-up questions. I have to start with one. A campaign is a big thing. So they're very disciplined. They're keeping her out of positions where she could say something stupid or...
She's contradicted her own positions multiple times.
So
So,
does
one
every
example,
candidate.
she's going to build 3 million new houses in her first year.
Yeah.
We build more new houses right now than 3 million in the first year.
What's that got to do with running a disciplined campaign? That's a
Disciplined campaign means you have the accurate, right information.
But
and
Mike,
the
that's a
candidate-
promise that gets people. What are you kidding me? You know people fall for this shit all the time. You tell people.
But you're
I'm gonna
talking
give
about
you-
discipline. I'm talking about there should be information discipline as well. If we're being disciplined, it means we're talking about policy points
All right.
that actually make sense
Mike,
and are going to work.
Donald Trump yesterday decided that he wants to give free IVF to everybody. Okay?
Stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid. But it's no more stupid or no more brilliant than Kamala Harris saying, I want to give $25,000 towards a down payment.
I agree, but
This
it's
is what people
undisciplined,
fall for.
but I see it as
You're talking about a
undisciplined.
platform. To me, discipline means again, I'll say the same example again because I can't think of a better one. They are doing a great job of keeping her out of situations where she could say something or do. They are. She hasn't said or done anything stupid.
The housing thing, okay, the price fixing thing.
Yeah.
How many retractions has she had to make in the last 3?
But Mike, those things pull well, whether or not we like them or they're going to do good or not.
If they were pulling well, she wouldn't have to retract a comment. Her campaign staff wouldn't have to go out and clean up after her.
She didn't retract the $25,000 for the down payment of a home.
They retracted the $3 million homes thing. They retracted the down payment for homes for illegals thing. They retracted a bunch of things.
Yes, that second one they did. But I don't even know if it was her that said that. I don't think it came out of her mouth.
And then the other part that's not disciplined is her campaign staff leaking information out to the media that's kind of negative, and then they're having to go back and correct it after the fact.
Like what?
I'm trying to remember the exact examples. I was actually reading about this the other day, and it's so talking about the money for illegals for the homes thing. That was part of that conversation. There was some other stuff that leaked to the press that was like negative stuff about her being like kind of I guess very nasty with her staff or whatever, or undisciplined or whatever.
Like nobody cares about that.
But people do care about that.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No,
you don't care about that. People care about that. Trust me.
Nobody can. You're going to vote for. If you found out today that Donald Trump cursed out his staff yesterday, you're going to change your vote? Come on.
Me and you are not regular people. But during my campaign, do you know how half my volunteers came to me? They were volunteers for Garbarino, and he treated them like shit the first time around. Okay, and that's how I gained half my. That fine, shit matters. It resonates with people.
Okay, but Garbarino still got reelected, right? It doesn't matter. But it's still
about what we're talking about.
It matters
discipline.
that you got better.
If you're asking about discipline, we're talking about discipline, and that's discipline.
That is not
a campaign discipline. Is having your information correct. Is having your policy correct. It's not having to issue retractions.
Having a few people leak to the.
It's not having to go back and change your policy.
To the press that she's mean to her staff means nothing.
But that's one small. Nothing. Okay, we could cherry pick, or we could talk about everything in general. So
everything in general, she has run a good campaign.
I don't think so.
She has.
I don't think
She's avoided all the mistakes of Joe Biden, right?
Not even remotely.
100%.
Not even remotely.
Really?
Not even remotely.
Mike, she hasn't once brought up.
She had to retract.
Can I finish my sentence before you yell at me?
Yes.
In both the only two things that we've seen of her, in full, right, was at the Democratic National Convention, that speech.
That was awful.
And at the interview yesterday at CNN. Let me finish.
I was going to agree with you on something.
Not one time in either of those things did she bring up the fact that she's a woman.
Yep.
Bring up the fact that she's black.
Yep.
She's not playing those cards. And the other thing was, as much as she went after Trump, which she should, she's running against him. She didn't go after us. Let me finish. Like Biden does.
No, she didn't.
No, she did not.
No, she didn't.
Like
she didn't. No, I know. She didn't. I agree with you.
She did not go after quote-unquote, MAGA Republicans. She did not play like Hillary Clinton did, the woman card, I'm breaking glass.
Or whatever.
Nothing. Now, she may feel that. She probably does. But she doesn't say it. She has been very disciplined with that sort of stuff. And, Mike, again, just because they don't convince us doesn't mean they don't convince other people.
No.
They took the whole cackling moron thing and turned it into joyful warrior.
That's the worst thing.
They have made her the agent of change when she's the fucking incumbent.
And she's the problem.
That is brilliant. That is a brilliant campaign. When you take the incumbent and make the incumbent the agent of change.
See, I'm not taking away from. I'm not taking away from their intelligence or ability to do smart things.
No, this is not her intelligence. This is the intelligence of the people that are running our campaign.
I'm saying her campaign staff are amazing. I never disagreed with that. But amazing campaign staff does not necessarily equate to an amazing campaign. And that's my point. Although with her speeches, I do agree with you. Both speeches, while flowery and not really very much about policy,
it was all platitudes.
They were good speeches for a Democratic base.
100%.
Right? But even I've seen some pretty far left Democrats who were pretty upset with those speeches because they were like, we wanted to see more about policy.
Yeah, and
we wanted to see a commitment to more.
And how about more left wing stuff? Right, Mike? That speech that she made at the convention, taking out the abortion part, could have been George W. Bush.
Well, yeah, because it was very flowery and just general policy, not really anything.
The America, we're going to kick your ass. We're going to do all that.
Talking about building a wall now and talking about other things.
And all the patriotism and greatest country in the world and only in this country. All the Obama stuff.
Her campaign staff is very smart, right? So they took all the policy.
So then why was I wrong in what I said?
Because smart isn't disciplined and disciplined isn't smart. They're not the same thing.
But what's been undisciplined? Again, not her. I know she's because as soon as they let her talk,
what I'm talking about undisciplined is the fact that they have to go back. Her campaign staff has to go back and fix things
So
after
does
the fact.
Trump's.
A lot for her, and
A
pretty
lot for him.
big. No, but not the same. Not even remotely.
Oh, Mike.
Not even remotely. His staff. How many retractions do you see on his policy? You don't.
No, not on his policy.
But on her, it's retractions on her policy.
But now he's coming. I mean, I think he's losing his fucking mind. Now all of a sudden he wants to give this huge government program billions of dollars for free IVF.
No, that's stupid.
Where the hell did that come from?
I don't know.
Because he's shaking right now. He's all back on his heels. Mike, listen, it could change tomorrow.
I don't
Everything
think so.
could change tomorrow.
I don't think he's on his heels. I think there's maybe the perception.
Very good campaign.
No, her campaign staff are great. But the fact that they had to go back and retract all this policy stuff is what makes me think it's undisciplined. And it's not that her campaign staff is undisciplined. It's that she's undisciplined.
You think in 2 weeks they're not going to retract the free IVF for everybody?
Oh, absolutely. You have to. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
Of course they will. Mike, come on.
It's
The
the stupidest
campaign
thing I've
staff
ever heard.
has to mop up after Trump all the time. It's just part of politics. That's what
I don't
happens.
think they mop up after him.
Especially
but
when
it's
you have
not
a
in the same way.
passionate candidate.
Like you have her, right? So the big ones that come to mind when I'm talking about this is her price fixing thing, right? That got cleaned up by her campaign staff, which they are smart and they cleaned it up, but they shouldn't have had to. The same with everything else that she says. They have to clean it up, and that's why her speeches are so flowery
You're talking
and
about bad
policy.
policy. You're not. I'm not.
And that
talking
comes
about
back to
policy.
discipline.
I'm talking about the campaign, the attempt to get her elected. That's what a campaign is, right? An attempt.
But there's various aspects to it. When talking about a campaign discipline, so for like my campaign, right? Now my campaign, I'll tell you right now, didn't have discipline, right? It didn't. I made so many mistakes in that campaign in so many ways. Some things I got right, without
like
a doubt.
what? Well, just give an example of something you got wrong, and let me see if we're at least on the same page of what we mean about campaign.
So for me, I didn't spend enough time actually on the nuts and bolts of the campaign, actually managing the nuts and bolts of it and where things should be or how things should be done.
Okay, that's an example of what I mean by a campaign, right?
Right.
Not
So that
really
was
your policy.
So me, I spent more time thinking and focusing on policy, and I didn't spend enough time thinking and focusing on the actual work. The
Right.
day-to-day work of it.
Mike, a campaign.
So I got hung up in the weeds over here, and I should have been over here.
A campaign's goal is to get a person elected.
Right. No,
Right?
absolutely.
It's not.
But my
I'm not
discipline
talking about
and my
policy
campaign
because
was not there.
People are going to disagree on policies, so it's
But-
not about policy. It's about.
But the problem is with the policy when it gets out in the open. So if I put out a policy as the candidate, and then my campaign comes behind me and retracts that and changes it, there's a disconnect between the two. That's a discipline. That's a failure of discipline.
Absolutely,
right there.
and that could be because. But again, that happens to every candidate. Says something that has to be mopped up by the campaign staff. That's
But
why you try to have a good
where
campaign
it shouldn't
staff.
be. That's where it shouldn't be. The campaign staff should not be disagreeing with you in that way.
It's not about disagreeing. It's about mopping something up that didn't turn out well. Mike, when I say she's
That's where I
running a
think
good
it's
campaign,
wrong.
I'm talking. She is again. I'll say it again.
She has a
stayed
very
away.
well-structured
There's
campaign.
no deplorable line out there, right? There's been no talk of "look at me, the black woman." Now her surrogates are, but her, nothing.
No, she avoids that
She
herself.
hasn't talked about that. She has not put down MAGA. Again, I'm not shilling for her. I'm not trying to say I'm gonna vote for her.
But she's not attacking the other side the way the other. She
Look,
attacks Trump, but
let me
not
put it to you,
Trumpers.
look, I mean, I love the Yankees. Okay, if the Yankees are playing the Red Sox and the Red Sox for a series outplay them, outpitch them, outmanage them, I could say that. That doesn't mean I'm a Red Sox fan. It just means they did a fucking
I'm not
good job in those
disagreeing.
3 days.
I'm not disagreeing. I just
Up
don't
to
think it's
this
a
point,
strong campaign.
They have done a very good job because just the fact, again, the biggest thing to me is that she is technically an incumbent. And she is running as an they
hope you
have
change
her
your
as an
candidate.
agent of change.
Change.
We're moving forward. This is where I think the Trump campaign is failing enormously by they're not getting through the connection that she is the cause or part of the cause. She is in the administration
think you're seeing
that has
that.
caused the problems that she's promising to fix.
I'm telling you that you're wrong on that. That is absolutely being portrayed by them in very, very
not
succinctly and well.
To you
You're
and me, not
seeing
out to
it.
them.
No, out
I'm
to
seeing
them.
it. I'm seeing it
No,
because I
out
watch
to
Trump
them.
rallies. That's
Right,
why
you
I'm
watch
seeing
Trump
it.
rallies, but you got to go beyond that. So you don't do social media, right? But social media is 90% of this country now.
But social
And
media,
social media is where he is putting that information out.
but you
where
go
it's
where you
spreading.
want to go on social media, right? So just like I just said, I see those things because I watch Trump rallies.
Well, no, I mean it's on.
So whether it's on
X, on Facebook,
yeah, fine,
on
that's fine. But
everywhere.
people search for that, right? I'm talking about the message that's getting out there in the mainstream. The message
mainstream
that's getting
media
out,
is never going to
not
betray
just
him.
mainstream media, the mainstream, just the average American. Mike, the average American doesn't spend 6 hours a day watching Newsmax or MSNBC or on Twitter. They just don't. They live their lives You get to campaign season, they start seeing things. Most people are not like us. They're not political junkies. They're just not. 3 million people watch Fox. We have 340 million people in this country. It's a very, very tiny sliver of America that really follows these things or digs for things. When I say mainstream, I just mean what's out there. You know, if you just talk to the average person in a bar or on a bus, not people involved. They are doing a great job of Kamala campaign of hiding the fact or somehow blurring the fact that she is in the incumbent administration that is causing the problems that she's recognizing are problems. She's saying inflation's too high. I'm going to fix it, she says.
Why didn't she already, right? Exactly.
Again,
and they've been saying that, and Trump's campaign's been saying that, and they've been saying it a lot.
Fine, but her campaign is doing a great job of doing this. Again,
so just that she... why you're trying to... You're giving credit to her campaign for doing that, but not giving credit to Trump's campaign for doing exactly the same thing.
For doing what?
For doing exactly what she's doing, for trying to say, listen, she is part of the problem. You're saying they're covering it up, and Trump's campaign is not doing anything.
Trump's campaign is covering it up.
No, you said her campaign is covering it up, and Trump's campaign's not bringing it out.
They're doing it... Listen, Mike, it's about marketing. Right, a campaign is marketing. You know that. You ran it, right? It's marketing. So they have marketed her as something that she is not. They have marketed her as this moderate, centrist person who's not part of the problem.
The American people are smarter than that, and I think they see through it. And I think you're going to be amongst a group that are surprised in November.
Let me tell you something. Even if Trump wins the election, okay, he'll win by a sliver, right? She wins the election, win by a sliver. So apparently they're not convincing. You think it's going to be a landslide?
I think so.
You're out of your mind.
Not at all.
There's not going to be a landslide in either direction.
I think there'll be a landslide in his direction.
No. Landslide what? A popular vote?
Yeah.
What do you consider a landslide?
Him winning the majority of states.
You just said the popular vote.
And the popular vote.
Okay, give me a number.
I don't know the exact number.
What's he going to win? Are you going to 53, 54%?
Probably higher than that.
You're out of your mind.
58, 60%.
All right, we're on video. Look,
I'll commit to 60%. I'll say 60% of the vote.
Donald Trump's going to win 60% of the popular vote.
I think so.
Reagan didn't win fucking 60% of the popular vote. Are you out of your mind?
Nope.
All right, we're on video here. What do you want to
let us know what you think about
No, I don't care what the fuck.
Flag it here and tell us what you think about
No, I don't want to know what they think about it. I want to know what you're willing to put on that. I'll lower it down. I'll give you 5 more points. I'll say 55.
55? Okay, so
I'll give you
55 and above is me. What are we putting up?
Name it.
I don't know. Put up whatever you want. You name what you want to put up. You start the challenge, so you got to pick what you want to put up.
Your car?
You want my car?
Yeah, you want to bet a car?
No, I'm not going to bet my car.
You're telling me Donald Trump's going to win 55% of the vote?
I do believe that, yes.
Name your price.
I do believe that.
Because you said 60. I'm helping you here. I'm bringing it down to 55.
Okay, yeah. I don't think I need the help, but okay. We'll go with 55.
We'll go with 55. I'll go to 54 if you want, and I'll still take whatever bet you want.
Because you think you're going to win.
Barack Obama only won by 52, 53%.
Barack Obama campaigned on certain aspects of certain things. I think Trump transcends a lot of that stuff.
Okay, so can name the number. Just give me a number that you want to bet. Anything you want to bet. You name it.
I don't know.
Anything.
Whatever you want. You pick. Whatever you want. It's not my car, obviously.
$200.
Sure, that works.
Right.
$200.
So 55% is the over-under.
Yep, that's the over-under.
So anything over 55%, I owe you $200.
Right. Anything
under
55 is you. I'll pay you.
Easiest $200 I ever made. You're out of your fucking mind.
Listen,
my God, I don't even think Trump would say he's going to win 55%.
Let me tell you why I think that way. Okay, and this is what it is, and this is why I think this way.
I'm actually sweating. I can't believe you said that. Go ahead.
Reagan was a landslide victory and didn't come near those numbers, right?
Oh, you got about 58, I think.
Okay, so Reagan was a landslide winner. Okay. Reagan came into power when inflation was high, people were hurting or whatever.
No, he didn't get that percentage when I thought you were talking about his re-election.
No, his initial election.
About 51.
Right, on his initial election. Yeah. And even then, it was only 51, with as painful as it was for people.
There was a third party in it, John Anderson. Remember, Jimmy Carter only got like 45 or something, 44%. Okay. So Reagan got 51, but it was a lot more than Carter.
Okay. So if we talk about it in terms like that, what you have now are generations of people, right, who are somewhat more sensitive, somewhat more attuned to their personal lives, maybe, or their comfort, and you have this huge disparity, right? Because remember, Trump wasn't in office that long ago. It's only been almost, about 3.5, 4 years. And the disparity between when he was in office and how good things were, and Kamala and Biden and how bad things are, is massive.
Yes, and that should be the only thing he talks about.
Regardless of what people in these polls say, or regardless of what we see talking heads on TV say, regardless of even what people tell you they're going to vote for, people are going to vote their pain points.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're going to vote Trump. And I think a lot of people are lying, saying, "Oh no, I would never vote for Trump. I can't stand the guy." Meanwhile, they'll be in the booth like, "Please."
Those lies are a lot less now than they used to be. And again, I only have anecdotal evidence, but I think I told. In fact, I think I said this on a video. When I come back from your house here, I'm sorry, the farm here, the first night when Trump got the assassination attempt. Remember I told you I stopped at the 7-Eleven?
Yep.
And I live in a very, very liberal. I don't know for sure, but I would bet anything that 75-80% of my area voted for Biden.
Sure.
Right? You would agree, right? You know where I live.
Yep.
They're selling all these Make America Great hats at the 7-Eleven. That wouldn't have, not a chance that would have happened 4 years ago, right?
You.
People in the neighborhood, I saw, even just the other day, not the other day, last week, I was up playing cards at Foxwoods. That's 5, 6, 7 people walking in and out of the poker table, and I was there for about 12 hours, right? 5, 6, 7 people, a bunch of them, with Donald Trump shirts or hats, different people. These things never would have happened a few years ago, because you're right, people were almost ashamed, or maybe afraid. I
think afraid is probably the more accurate term.
I think afraid more than ashamed. So I think that's less so now. I think people are much more willing to openly.
That's why I said
I just did it as an experiment. Remember, I told you I was going to vote for Bobby Kennedy back then at that time, but I bought the hat. I bought the Trump 24 hat.
I'm telling you, it's going to be big numbers.
I didn't get one, Mike, I swear to you, not one negative comment. Not only did I get negative comment, I got a bunch of positive comments.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't think the shy Trump vote. Listen, I think Trump could win. 3 weeks ago, I would have bet $20,000 he was going to win. I just think the way things are right now, I'm not really that sure. But one thing I'm sure of, Mike, he's not getting 55% of the vote. You can write me that check now. 55%? My God.
I think so. I think 60, honestly, but yeah.
Woo.
If I had to pick a number, I'd say 60.
I'll give you odds on that then. If you want to make the bet bigger and you want to make it 60, I'll give you 10-1 odds on whatever fucking amount you want to bet.
I think he's going to win, but... And I think that,
by the way, $200 and public apology by the loser.
Listen, if he loses, you don't have to worry about the public apology. We'll all be in the court together.
I'm not talking about losing the election. I'm saying whoever loses our bet. Public apology.
If I'm wrong, I'll admit I'm wrong. Absolutely, yeah, of course. I have no problem admitting I'm wrong.
Should tell you got to kiss my naked white ass if you
one of these days on the show, I will break out my after action report from my campaign of all things. My after action. So I wrote out everything I think we did right and everything I think we did wrong, and I wrote a very detailed assessment of the campaign. I will break that out, and we will go over it with you live on this thing, so that you can kind of see. Like I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong, believe me. And but in my gut and in my heart, I really believe. But I cover a lot of ground for work every day. Like I cover a lot of ground, hundreds of miles.
Mike,
so
do you know how rare it is for a presidential candidate in this country to get 55%?
Oh, I know. I know, absolutely know. Yeah,
you count on your hands.
I know. I know, but I think that this is one of those points, an inflection point in history. I really do. I think we're living in an inflection point in history. I do.
We'll see.
I do. That's what my gut tells me. I could be wrong. Listen, I
think the election's a toss-up at the moment.
I've been wrong before.
I wouldn't be surprised if Trump wins. I wouldn't be surprised if he loses. Again, 2 months is an eternity in politics. Things could change by next week.
Well, we got the October surprise coming, right? So we'll see what that's going to be.
But at the moment, right now, I think it's a coin flip. But there's no fucking way 55%. I tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe and tell this fool he's wrong.
55%.
All right. Give us your thoughts on it. What do you think happens? Okay, if we're talking about the election and we're talking about what's going to happen in the very near future, give us your thoughts on it. Give us your thoughts on what we talked about tonight. We had disagreed, obviously, on certain aspects of certain things, discipline the campaign, all that. Let us know what you're thinking. We want to hear your
we disagreed, but everything I said when I broke it down, you told me I was right.
Well, yeah, but I did the same thing on the other side of it. But I don't think it's so much that we're disagreeing as that we're kind of missing each other on certain points.
But I wasn't talking about Trump's campaign. I'm just talking about her campaign. But when I broke it down...
Her campaign staff is very smart, but it's not a smart campaign because it's her, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm probably not articulating well what it is that I mean. Maybe you guys can help me out with that.
Just the fact that she's even involved and could win is a testament to the good campaign she's running.
She got Obama's campaign staff, and they're
by no
smart.
stretch of the imagination should she be anywhere close in this race.
I agree.
Not with the things that are going on in this country and in this world right now. Mike, we're on the brink of World War III. You got all this shit in the Middle East. Yep. You got our groceries are 25% higher than they were 4 years ago. You got illegal immigrants crossing the border like crazy. Everything, there's nothing, because I've said it a million times, Joe Biden's the worst president of my lifetime. And she's his vice president. She shouldn't even be close. Why do you know what? We're going over an hour. Fuck this.
Here we go, folks.
We're back. All right. there's a reason why Gavin Newsom didn't get involved and run. There's a reason why.
Because they don't want to waste their good candidates on a race that they'll lose.
Exactly. They didn't want any strategies. Why do you think it was Tim Walz and not Roy Cooper or somebody with a political future?
Because they're not going to waste a good candidate.
Right. Tim Walz has no political future.
No,
he's got nothing.
Neither
Roy Cooper does. Shapiro does. People like that, they have futures. Gavin Newsom does.
Yeah.
Nobody who has a future wanted any fucking part of running against Trump, because they know by all, if you take the emotion out of it and this Trump derangement syndrome, Trump should win by 55%.
I think he
Trump
will.
should have a Reagan-esque type win.
I do think he will.
He should. Just the fact that she's even in this race, that there's even polls that are close, that there's any chance that she can win.
I think he will.
But it's a testament to her campaign. This is not a compliment to her. I know we're not allowed to compliment.
No, her campaign is not her. It's their campaign staff.
They are running
and they're smart as hell.
Good campaign. They're avoiding mistakes. They're not doing the things that fucked Hillary over, like I'm a woman going to break the glass ceiling and you're a bunch of deplorables. They're staying away from all of that. They're sticking with just platitudes. They're not getting involved in minutia. They are doing a great job of keeping that woman in the conversation.
I understand.
When she should be losing. She should be losing by so much.
I understand what you're saying, and I understand where you're coming from, and your points are valid, and you're right. I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is that does not equate to a good campaign. No, they're running a good campaign right now, but that shine has worn off already.
But I can only talk about what's happened up to now, Mike. Let's
talk about the last few days. So just the last few days, right? The CNN interview comes out, and her poll numbers drop by a point.
How can they drop by anything? It just happened last night. How come we know?
It's already up because the polls this morning, pre and post, they dropped it by a point already.
You're putting credence in a snap
I'm
poll?
talking about the polling that this
That's
poll
a snap poll, right?
Kind of like that. But what they did was they went and they looked at I think it was sentiment, like social media sentiment, right? So they use it as like a gauge to kind of measure
how I feel
where people are like. Listen, you know what? But they're all shit. All polls are shit.
Well, Mike,
really.
The people that answer those things are
snapshots
people
in time.
Who answers those polls? People who passionately are on one side
and
of the
if you have passionate people who are on her side and they drop by a point, that's a big deal, because that if you extrapolate that out to the populace,
is statistically insignificant. You know that.
But then they talk about points.
That's why there's a margin of error of 2-3%, because 1% in a poll means nothing.
I think the bloom's off the rose for her. I think her campaign's going to start to go down in flames now.
Mike, you could be
She's had a lot of missteps lately.
Mike, you could be 100% right. And next week when we do our videos next week, it could be 100% different. But at the moment right now, just the fact that she has a chance of winning this election,
I think
is astounding.
I think she's going to get crushed. I do.
Maybe.
But I think that the momentum can't be sustained for her. Although I will say this about the IVF thing with Trump. I think that was a knee-jerk, stupid thing he said, that his campaign 100% is going to have to go back and clean up, because it's a retarded thing to say.
And by the way, what happened to the most, and this is his saying, the most pro-life candidate in history? What happened to that? Now all of a sudden he's wishy-washy on abortion? Yeah, he's been pissing me off on a lot of things, but
he's playing the politics game a little too much. I don't like it. But, because it is what it is. But,
I mean, I see what he's trying to do there, because you
don't want to alienate a section of the
party. The pro-life people are going to vote for him because they have to vote for him. So maybe he's trying to get a couple of people who are
in the middle. He's trying to grab a little segment of that independent vote.
So I get that, but I liked him better when he was calling
stop killing babies. Pro-life. Don't kill babies. That's not good. Don't do
Mike, maybe next week her campaign implodes. Look, it's just like a war, right?
I think it's going to be ups and downs all the way to November.
In a war, one side could be winning battle after battle after battle after battle,
and still lose the war.
Right now, she's winning the battles. Her campaign is winning the battles.
I don't see her winning.
That doesn't mean she's going to win the war.
I think she's just kind of riding on that media wave that she had from the start.
But then that's smart.
So she's riding that wave. But the problem with waves is eventually they crash ashore, and I don't see her wave making it past November or even to November.
Well, we'll see what happens, because you're right. Things are, there's ebbs and flows. So let's see what happens if things crash. Listen,
if she can grab the next crest or the next wave, she could probably carry it through.
If she gets under his skin at the debate and gets him to go,
she's trying to change the rules of the debate now. Now she wants the rules changed
again.
And now she's saying, well, I might not debate and blah 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 blah.
Now she'll debate because she has to. They're going to have to. They're both put in a position where they have to. But if you were her, wouldn't you want those mics on?
Yeah.
Of course you would.
But
Of course you would. Why not?
I think it could work against her also.
Maybe.
I'm the one speaking right now is not going to play well with the American people.
It's possible, but you want to know what else? I do think there's
That
a
would
little
be
bit
her
of
Hillary moment.
chivalry left in this world, and I think if a guy comes across as a bully against a girl, it might turn against him, if he ends up... But that's in the future.
Yeah,
At this moment
We'll
right
see.
now, I'm sorry, she's run a very, very good campaign.
Not her.
That's not... Well,
Not
whatever.
her.
Her campaign.
Her staff. Not her. She can't run anything.
Whatever. She's listening
She couldn't
to
run
them.
a Hoover vacuum properly.
She's listening to them. Let's put it that way. She's
the only thing
doing
she
what
can
they
run
tell
well
her
is a
to do.
train with a bunch of guys.
She's following the script. She's doing what they're telling her to do. Very disciplined. They're doing a good job. Could change
I don't
tomorrow.
even know that she's so much
At
doing what
the
they're telling her to
moment,
do.
yeah.
I think they're just doing a good job at like insulating her and keeping her from being able to step
No,
in shit.
I think they told her, stay away from the deplorable stuff. Don't make that mistake. Don't play the race shit. I think they told her that because I don't think she came up
They're
with that
coaching
on
the
her
hell
own.
out of her,
Because
yeah.
I remember her back in 2019 when she didn't have the best of the... Because that's what happens, right? Presidential politics is a lot different. You have a different staff when you're running for president than you do when you're running for the
Senate or
nomination.
Congress,
right?
yeah.
So when she's running for the nomination, it was a very different Kamala Harris. Remember she even called Joe Biden a racist? Remember
Yeah.
that whole story? Oh, that little girl was me. Remember?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
they are doing a great job of keeping that Kamala Harris from coming out. All of a sudden, she didn't say the things that she did say, or she didn't mean the things that she said, but she still has the same values she says. Oh, come on. It's political fucking brilliance, whatever they're doing.
We'll see. We'll see. All right, guys. Let us know what you think, honestly. Give us your thoughts. Give us your feelings. Give us your comments.
And if you stayed with us for an hour and 5 minutes and listened to that shit, you
God
better
bless you.
subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe, like, share these videos out. Let's get the conversation going, folks, all right?
Ooh, I'm tired and sweating. Shut this shit off.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.